Welcome to the Better Automation podcast by PROCESIO, where we address one of the biggest challenges business face today, wasting time and resources on repetitive manual tasks. Our goal is simple: to show you how smarter automation can free up your time, save you money, and let you and your team focus on what truly matters. I'm your host, Daniel, and joining me today it's Marian Voicu, the co-founder and deputy CEO of PROCESIO. Marian, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Great. So, before we start, Marian, please tell our listeners. I think it's very important, and people might be curious to learn more about you. Who is Marian? Who are you at your core, beyond titles and roles?
So, who am I? Who is Marian? I would say that Marian is a husband, it's a father, and it's a builder. Why a builder? Because I've been building since childhood. I've been building toys like planes, cars, rockets, and so forth, just from a piece of wood, I would say, and improvised materials. So I've been building since childhood. Later on, I've been building software, digital products, and now I'm building automation technology, PROCESIO.
Man, it's very interesting. So you're a builder. I'm just curious, is there any plane you built and launched it? Or any rocket? Did you launch any rocket in the space?
Not at that level. I'm not Elon Musk yet. You never know. But I've been building just the models. So I've been sculpting actually. I will be building with a piece of wood and knife and cutting until the car or the plane took shape.
Interesting. And you take this passion and put everything now into this company, Procesio, building this amazing automation tool. I'm just curious if you can tell us what made you join Procesio? What inspired you to join the company and together with together with your co-founder with Mihai to build this company? I'm very curious.
Actually, Mihai inspired me. So I know Mihai since 2011. But in 2020, Mihai approached me and pitched me this idea of building a technology that will build software. Of course, the trend was new, like rapid application development, low code. In 2020, no code was like in its peak. So I knew nothing about configuring and building, and I liked his idea, and I joined him in co-founding
Mhm.
PROCESIO.
So you decided to build a technology that builds software. I'm really curious to dive into this because there are a lot of misconceptions, I think, about the automation, about the automation industry, the automation as a whole, and would be very helpful to demystify all of these concepts so people will understand more about this. You said something about no low code, no code. Can
No
you
code, full
can
code.
you please tell us more? How do you handle this low code, no code approach, and what's your perception about this? How will this evolve in the future?
Of course, I can do that because this is what we are doing for a couple of years nowadays. So, um, not sure if you know, but in 2020, Microsoft said something like the existing need for software couldn't be covered, not even in 50 years. So this was in 2020, with the existing way of building and developing software. So it was clear for the entire industry, not just for us, that there is a need for another approach, another way of building software to cover the business need and the people's need of software. So, because we don't have enough software developers to code every piece of the software, a new trend surfaced, the trend of configuring. So this trend has its inception for, let's say, 10 or 20 or 30 years. It was called rapid application development. It evolves into low code and no code. But basically what this means that you will build software not by writing code, but by configuring code, or just adding visually configuring pieces of information that in the end it will be a software. So this is what we also trying to do with PROCESIO. Just that we position ourselves more towards enterprise sphere, and here companies have contextual software and system inside. So we also it was also clear for us, but that we couldn't miss the coding part. So we actually combined the no code, the low code approach, which is more high level, with low level approach of delivering software, writing code. Why? Because we want to have a powerful technology that is flexible enough to cover enterprise context, but also it's robust.
Mm-hmm.
For me, no code and low code are just ways of delivering software. You still need to understand the context. I truly believe that in order to deliver anything, you need to have a proper analysis to understand the context related to software. You need to understand the systems, how the data flows between them, and after that try to improve the processes, the data flows, and actually implement or automate them. So no code is just configuring, but you still need to understand how systems works.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. I never think about things this way. So there is so much need for software out there. Companies, and not only companies, individuals need software, but we have very few, very little. The number of programmers, it's not enough to cover all the software needs, and this is how these automation tools
Yes.
like Procesio. This is where they come in place, and they help you build software faster, basically. That's very interesting.
Yep.
I'm curious, who uses Procesio, and how does the platform adapt to their specific needs? Who are the users of your technology?
Got it. So the user for Procesio still are technical, not necessarily hard coders, software engineers, but developers, the one that knows how to deliver software. And we enable them with a technology like Procesio to deliver faster and have a flexible approach to delivering software, to be more to be able to react faster when a change is needed. Because with classic software development you need to have a proper CI/CD pipeline, so like continuous integration, continuous delivery, and so forth, which is time consuming. You need to deploy infrastructure and so forth. Uh, and this takes more time to have an end result. And with the current need for software from the business side, this this do not meet the
Mhm.
need actually. So by approaching with a technology like Procesio, a software developer will be able to actually deliver faster and adapt faster to the
Mhm.
business requirements. Actually, I like to say that Procesio mostly is bridging the business world with the technical
Mhm.
development
Can we
world.
take a real world example? I'm really curious to make sure that I understand, that also our listeners will truly understand. So you said you work mainly with enterprises. So let's say I'm an enterprise.
Yes.
I need to automate some business workflows. Uh, I am the
Hmm.
I'm representing the business part, the business. So basically, you said the users are the technical guys, the developers, but you also have some
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
shareholders that are involved in the process. Maybe the department managers, or maybe the CEO, or maybe the CFO. I'm really curious to understand, because you said you're serving both the business and the technical part. So, who are the actors involved on the business
Yes.
part? Who are the actors involved in the technical part, from the technical part, and how do you bridge this gap between them?
Got it. So, if we are speaking about the project, let's take an example that
Mm-hmm.
is closer to us. Let's say e-invoice integration. So, like the regulatory European regulation on the
Mm-hmm.
e-invoice side. In this context, we have on the business side, we have the financial people, let's say a CFO or someone inside the company that is representing the financial side and also has, let's say, the responsibility to comply to the regulation, and the one that needs to build that integration to the e-invoice system, so a technical person or the business technology, I would say, business technologist, I would say. Why I've been speaking mostly about the software developer, but with Procesio there is not such a huge need for actual software developers, but more for people that understand technique and understand how system works and how data
Mm-hmm.
flows between them. And these people can also be called business technologists, so they know how to uh, orchestrate or how to architect a system but not actually coding it.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I've been speaking about the business side, the technical side, and also it's the third actor in this use case. It's the regulatory body that has a system and impose to every business to comply to their whatever the system they
When
might
you're
have built.
when you're talking about e-invoice, this is a regulatory. This is a law basically that all the EU member
Mm-hmm.
states needs to comply. Um,
Yep, at some
and
point, yes.
I'm just curious. So we have the European Union, which brings this law. This is one of the
Mm-hmm.
regulation bodies. Basically, we have another regulation body
Mm-hmm.
inside each country, and then we have the shareholders, the business shareholders, the technical shareholders in each company. So
Exactly
um,
so.
so what more exactly what Procesio is doing? Uh, what you do? Basically, I'm an enterprise. I need to comply to all of this
Mm-hmm.
regulatory that comes from the European Union, and you help me do exactly what? I need more information about this e-invoice. What this e-invoice means? What do I have to do as a company
Yeah.
to make sure that I'm compliant to this law?
You as a company need to take all your data
Mm-hmm.
about the invoices and send it to the regulatory body of your country. In this aspect, you need to take the data
Mm-hmm.
out of your system. And what we are doing with Procesio, we relieve you as a stakeholder from all those pain of manual extracting data out of your the enterprise contextual system, because usually enterprise system do not have a direct connection to a regulatory body that needs to be built. So we relieve the stakeholder, let's say a CFO, out of that concern, and we integrate their systems to the regulatory body. So we understand their system, we extract the data out from their system, we process their data, and send it to the regulatory body. And back to the system, we provide the reply from the regulatory body. That just simply put, it's way more
Mm-hmm.
complex than this, but we act like an orchestrator between their system and the systems of the regulatory body. And I just need to add that this usually is contextual, and we build with Procesio a contextual infrastructure like a highway between the systems and the regulatory body
And I'm
system.
just curious. These people, they're already doing something before working with you, before deciding to work with Procesio. What is their current workflow? How are they handling this specific example? We have this enterprise. Let's say they, I don't know. It's a utility companies. They provide gas to people. We just take a random example.
Yes.
What is their current workflow before installing Procesio, before deciding to work with you to automate all this workflow?
Got it. So you mentioned let's say a gas supplier, so energy supplier. This is interesting because on the energy side we have two use cases that are similar and cover the
Hmm.
regulatory aspects. We have this e-invoice regulation, and also in some countries we have let's say a regulatory body on the energy side that requests to comply from the suppliers and distributors to comply with sending all the data related to the contracts that they have and changes in the contracts. So this is
Hmm.
complementary. That's why I needed to add a second use case to this
Hmm.
regulatory aspect. Let's take for example an energy supplier. Uh, they need to send the data to this regulatory body related on their contract and
Hmm.
their invoices. Um, Initially, because they have contextual systems on the energy side, they needed to manually take the data to manually input it in the regulatory body system. And when you are speaking about thousands or tens of thousands or many more contracts, that is not possible. Actually, it's not
Hmm.
possible. They don't have enough people to actually do that. That is why an automated integration is needed, and here is where Procesio comes into place by taking the data from the system prior to proper analysis with the business people to understand their context and their triggers. We are mapping their triggers and move the data automatically to the regulatory body, relieving them out of this manual inputting job, which is not possible on this context that I'm
Hmm.
saying right now. Um, and just translate it into a dashboard of synchronization, let's say contract synchronization or invoice synchronization, and also put information into the system. And furthermore, we can augment with, let's say, approval flows. I would say an example on the invoice size. So most of the company have internal procedures related to paying invoices. So we are taking the information that they receive from their invoice regulatory body and map that let's say those invoices that they received and send it to the proper person that might approve that invoice for payment.
I'm just curious, are there any other tools that can automate this process or part of this process? Like, I don't know, the invoicing software. Each company they're using an invoice, a software for
Hmm.
sending out the invoices to their customers. So let's say this
Yes.
company has 100,000 clients. They need to send 100,000 invoices each month. Is it possible for them to directly connect that invoicing software with the regulatory in with the regulation body in that specific country? Is there anything like this right now in the market, or this invoicing software are not
Mhm.
built to have this specific integration? I'm just curious, what are their alternatives? So one of the alternatives is for them to manually taking all this information and send it to that regulation body.
Mhm.
Is there any other tool that they can use, and what are the limitations? I'm really curious to understand.
Got it. So you mentioned an enterprise scale. hundreds of thousands of invoices. At this scale, at least myself and us as a company didn't saw something, a system that fully and automatically integrates with those
Mhm.
regulatory bodies. Usually, inside the let's say regions or countries, there are softwares, invoicing softwares, more targeted towards SMBs that are having direct integration with those regulatory bodies. But when we are speaking to enterprise systems, enterprise companies with enterprise systems, they have complex internal systems like SAP and other systems that do not have by default integration with the region or country regulatory body, and they need to build that integration. And they have two options. They need to build it by writing code and employ, let's say, an SAP partner or provider to develop that, and it will take like 6 or 12 months. But they cannot do that because the regulatory body states that, let's say, in 1 or 2 or 3 months they need to be fully integrated. And here is where the technology like Procesio comes into place, and it is like natural for Procesio and us as a company or our implementation partner to develop this type of integration
Mhm.
quite fast. So we've been experienced developing time like 3 weeks or from 3 to 6 weeks to develop a custom invoice integration, and in some contexts even like 1 week integration. But that's contextual. Usually, um, from my perspective, an implementation process on this type of integration should have at least 3 phases: at least an analysis phase, a development phase, and the testing and go live test, and of course post go live hypercare and so forth. But we still simplify it from a complex software development approach. We adapt it to a quick development process, like 4 to 6 week development approach. So I was saying that is I didn't see and we didn't show this type of integration by default.
Okay, so when you're talking to at an enterprise scale, there are no tools that would be integrated with these regulation bodies. So SAP, I think it's one of, if not the biggest company that provides ERP solutions. And when you're at an enterprise level, there are a lot of enterprises who are using SAP as their ERP basically, and SAP
Mhm.
they just don't care because this year they can have I don't know, a specific country may come up with some sort of regulation, another country may have a different regulation, and they have the technology as it is. This is their technology, and you just definitely
Yep.
need, when there is a new regulation in place, you just need to make sure you integrate all of your systems with for example in the e-invoice case, with that regulation body. So this where Procesio comes into place. So it's
Mhm.
much faster, and I'm assuming that it's also much cheaper for them. For example, if they are using SAP as their ERP, it's also faster, but
Of
also
course.
cheaper for them. I'm curious, is it?
Of course, the pricing is an important aspect nowadays with the current economic situation, and it is way much cheaper approaching with the technology like Procession. But I want to go back to what you are saying. There is not something default in SAP or the other complex system. Um, I I must say that sometimes there is something they might have like an integration approach, but the the situation inside the enterprise companies every time is contextual and adapted to their context, of course, and a default something that the software has
Mhm.
will not work. uh, that is and here is where the solution like Procesio, it's one of the best approaches. Of course, what I'm saying right now can also be developed and delivered with classic software development, but that will take way much more at a time and will cost
Mhm.
much more, like 3 or 5 times longer
Mhm.
as a time span. I can also provide an example where we couldn't connect to SAP. So we have a big, actually, global company that needed to integrate in a European country with the regulatory body on invoice to be paid by the, let's say, government body. So it was like a B2G business. And they were like in a business freeze because they couldn't be paid because they couldn't integrate the invoices with that regulatory body. And we asked them, what do you have? Can we connect to your SAP? No, you cannot. It will take like 6 months to provide the connection. What else do you have? Can you provide an Excel export? They say, yes, we can, but it will take 3 months and that will be too late for us. We might have a really huge business problem. And we came with an idea uh, to simplify this and to not take them to do all the internal IT procedure and so forth. We told them, hey, let's have a generic email address, and when you are sending the invoice to your whatever the government body to be paid, add us in BCC with that address, yours or ours, it doesn't matter. And we just intercepted that invoice to their normal flow, take that information with Procesio, extracted the data out of that PDF, process that data to the whatever XML needed by the regulatory body, and send it to the system, to the government system. And it was a quick way that solved a really huge business problem. And this is just an example for you to understand the flexibility and the robustness and the power of
Mhm.
Procesio.
I'm curious, can you share the name of that company if you're allowed?
Yes, the name of the company is called Siemens Healthineers, and it was a known fact that like 2 years ago, there was a huge problem with this government integration.
I'm curious to learn what other case studies, what other successful implementation can you share with us? You mentioned we covered the e-invoice implementation, and I think that makes a lot of sense
Mhm.
right now, especially when, if I'm not wrong, in 2025 there will be a law that will cover all the European states. No, if I'm not wrong, but I'm curious, what other successful implementations can you
Mhm.
share with us? Well, you mentioned something
Sure, I can.
before, but I would love to learn more about this.
Sure, I can mention some more use cases and case studies. Just to mention related to the invoice, it's somewhere around 2026, like imposed by the European
Hmm.
legislation. Naturally, it will stay that deadline, but at least countries are complying
Hmm.
to it. And also this transcends and will transcend just business to business context, also will go towards business to
Hmm.
consumer invoices. So it will cover everything, and it will be trickier. We will see
Hmm.
what will happen. Now, going back, I was mentioning on the energy sector, the integration with, let's say, regulatory bodies on that energy sector. And I will not stay in this example because I provided earlier, and it should be clear, but we can develop further on. Now I will focus more on another regulatory aspect on the European region. It's called e-transport. So basically similar with e-invoice. On the e-transport side, countries need to comply. Some of them are already complying. Some of other European countries will comply to the need of declaring all the goods transported inside European Union. So with
This law will be generally applicable in the European Union.
this will be generally applicable in European Union. At this point, some of the countries already adopted it, and it's
Mhm.
mandatory by law for the companies and transporters to declare. So there will be the company that will declare the goods transported, and also the transporters needs to declare anything related to what they are transporting, with what cars they are transporting, with GPS data, and also if they have a change in the truck and so forth. Everything they need to declare
Mhm.
any checkpoint, and
Mhm.
this is huge. And we have a really nice use case with the big international transport company
Mhm.
DHL. So DHL partnered with us to develop an internal e-transport hub for them. So it's called like a DHL e-transport hub, which basically integrates with all the systems and checkpoints. So any transport has a checkpoint that collects data, and that needs to be synchronized with an UIT code. UIT code is called. So this UIT code is what the goods beneficiaries needed to be compliant. So with this UAT code, everybody should align. So the beneficiaries should declare the goods, and the transporter should declare whatever related to the transport. So this is what we've built for DHL and other companies like Salesianer. I'm mentioning Salesianer right now because I've been discussing with Antim Mogos from Salesianer just 1 week ago, and he told me like this. Hey Marian, so prior to the automation that you've built for us, and so Antim had like a person, like a key person inside the company, covering this UIT code generation for 2 hours per each day. So just make the calculation, and you'll see the impact on the business, and also taking into consideration that it was a key personnel inside the company covering this. So it was also a stretch
Mhm.
on their business. And now Antim from Salesianer is a huge fan of our integration, and also discussing with us to see whatever we can automate inside their company. And I wanted to express this because it's something fresh that we have, and it also transcend as a outcome towards the DHL transport hub and other transport integration that we have. So basically,
Mhm.
this is
I'm
another
curious,
example.
in terms of, you said the integration might take between 3 and 6 weeks. In terms of business outcomes, I'm really curious. How much money did you help them save, or how much man hour did you help them save?
Mhm.
What for
So,
DHL, and
got
you
it.
already mentioned for Salesianer. I'm curious for DHL. What was the final outcome?
So for DHL, this is still early to say a number in the outcome, because the launch was like 2 months ago. So we still are looking towards the outcomes. But I want to emphasize on the fact that when we are speaking about regulatory aspects, there is something more important than, let's say, savings, cost saving, and so forth, and is the
Mhm.
compliance. So here we help with compliance that might reflected in some other financial aspects when they are not complied. So this is the first aspect, the compliance. And of course, uh, like Salesianer, also DHL had multiple people covering, manually declaring those transport and updating those UIT codes. that you also can translate into numbers. Let's say one or two or three person fully dedicated towards that, because it's about DHL and they have huge numbers, right? So you can at least have a general picture about the effort and the savings that imply this type of automation and
That's very
integration.
interesting and very important that you mentioned this, because the focus should not only be on the cost savings, but also on the compliance. Thank you for mentioning this. Can you share? Do you have other example you'd like to share with us? Another successful implementation that we can cover?
Of course, we have examples, but I will stick to with these
Hmm.
three use cases, but because are
Okay.
most common for us, and what I've told you are reflected towards all the clients
Hmm.
that we have
Hmm.
on those use cases.
Thank you for this. I'm curious. I'm
You're very
curious.
welcome.
What would you say that set you apart from other tools in the market? I'm no automation expert, but I know there are some other automation tools. I'm not asking you to tell me who is your competition, but I'm really curious. What sets Procesio apart?
So it's a mix uh, between a flexible but also robust technology, Procesio, and our own mindset and automation approach, because we also delivered and we also implemented an implementation division. So
Hmm.
this is what we've done. We have an internal division that covering uh, implementation of automation with Procesio. And also, we are scaling this division and augment it with an external partners network that are also covering automation implementation
Hmm.
with Procesio. So I would say that the mix between our technology and our mindset of simplifying a complex situation and find the best way to deliver it in time, because nowadays to have a fast go to market, I would say it's more important, but that launch or go to market should be sufficient enough. It's not important anymore to be a perfect implementation, because it will not matter if you implement 1 year from now something that needs to be compliant, that something that needs to be something that needs to comply with a regulatory body. You need to have it now or
Hmm.
tomorrow at least. So this is uh, the way we approach it. We understand the context that our clients have and find the best way to cover it and to deliver it in time.
I I think that's so interesting because nowadays, when you, especially in this software industry, when you ask a founder, what's your differentiation? Most of them will be in such a rush to tell you about their technology. We have the best technology, we have the best capabilities, we have the best features. And I'm not saying this is not important, it's extremely important. But I remember asking Mihai, your co-founder, the same question, and he told me that your biggest strength is your versatility, the versatility of the team and the versatility of the technology. And you didn't know about this because I only asked him.
No.
And now I was curious to see your point of view. And it's really interesting. You said you have this automation mindset and the ability to adapt to each specific case of your clients and come up with this simplifying mindset and approaching things with the idea of simplifying, which I completely, I totally support this, the idea of simplifying complex things and complex concepts.
So the simplifier approve the simplifying thing.
I love this. And you mentioned flexibility. I'm really curious. You mentioned simplifying things. You mentioned flexibility. Still, how can you remain flexible, and how can you keep your simplifying mindset. When I'm assuming that people come to you with the most, I don't know, difficult requests, they have different needs, difficult requests. How do you manage to keep this simplifying mindset and this the right mindset in the team? I'm really curious.
So there is not a predefined recipe to the simplifying thing because every time is contextual. At least I would simplify it. You need to stay
Hmm.
open-minded and ask questions. That is why our implementation process every time starts with, let's say, 1 week
Hmm.
of analysis to understand. So this is this is what I this is the thing that I will reply
Hmm.
to your question. Understand, listen, ask question, and after the words try to map it and simplify it. It's not a predefined recipe.
So basically, you're not doing anything before making sure you truly understand your client's context. After you understand their context, then you start building the solution, the technical solution.
Of course, you. Why would you do anything if you do not understand what you are doing? You need to
Mhm.
understand first, and afterwards start building it.
Mhm.
Of course, there are some exceptions with predefined recipes that might be now related to e-transport. We know everything about the regulatory body integration and the flows. We have, let's say, a core or implemented code. So this might be something that we take by default, the main flows of the e-transport integration, and just adapt with the client context. Um, from time to time, there are things that can work by default. But we are speaking mostly about enterprise context, and that adapts to each
Mhm.
company on its own.
What's next for Procesio in terms of acquiring new clients, open new markets, scaling the number of implementation partners, or I don't know, improving customer experience? What's next? What are the future plans?
Got it. Related to the technology itself, the future is the one that we envision since the inception, since in 2020, to be a core productivity tool for everybody inside the company to use it related to automation or software development. We are not there yet. We are building towards that future and the vision that we have. Uh, and now related to the business side, related to the clients, of course, we are looking mostly for use cases, for things that are important for the business, and we can deliver in proper time and with proper benefits for the business. So we are in continuous search for things that we can do well and help people with those. Meanwhile, we are growing and developing our implementation partners network, um, because we cannot deliver everything ourselves, and we are starting to deliver mainly with the implementation partners, and also with them we are looking on use cases that fits our technology and their skills.
And I will ask you one more question that's very specific because I know you have a lot of expertise in this field and you already give me a lot of context and case studies. Uh, so, if we're talking about the next years in Europe, we know that the e-invoice system must be implemented, and all the companies, not only the companies, but also the customers, the individuals will need to comply to this e-invoice system. Uh, what role do you see for Procesio in this context, in this related to the e-invoice implementation, system implementation across Europe? Would you like to scale and become the trusted partner for enterprises all over Europe, or what's your plans specific related to this specific question, this specific topic?
Yep. Of course, we want to scale it and to have it implemented across European countries. And I would say that Procesio is the suited technology for that. We have experience with delivering and implementing integration with the e-invoice systems and adapting to multiple contextual aspects of internal company, enterprise company systems. So I would say that Procesio it's a suited orchestrator between regulatory bodies and enterprise company systems. And we also have the expertise, not just the technology, to do that ourselves and our implementation partners.
Uh, I have no more questions prepared for our discussion. For me, it was a great talk. And before we close, is there anything else you'd like to add? Maybe it's something that you'd like to mention, and I just didn't had the chance to ask you.
Not sure because we had a pretty smooth and organic and natural discussion. But I remember now that we've been discussing about myself as a builder, and just something come up into my mind. I would say that Procesio empowers builders to build software. It's something that just goes to my
That
mind.
sounds good. Procesio empowers builders to build software.
And it's also made by builders. So builders build Procesio for other builders to build software. Inception in Inception.
Nice, nice. Builders build Procesio to help builders build software. Now that sounds like a slogan, you know. It sounds good. Marian, thank you so much for your time. There's a lot of value in this podcast. I can't wait to share this with the public, and we will let people know that we plan to do this on a monthly basis. So each month from now on, we will have these meetings with you and Mihai. The goal is simple: to provide as much value as possible for the community, to offer this knowledge, your knowledge, for free to the people who needs it, and to do something to help, to really help people build better software, automate workflows, automate processes, and in the end help them build better businesses. So thank you so much for this. Looking forward to our next discussion.
Of course. Thank you, Daniel. It was quite a pleasure discussing with you. And thank you for inquiring me and having this smooth discussion. I might add something. With this podcast, we should also invite other people, other builders, to take their knowledge. Right? What do you
Absolutely,
say, Daniel?
that would be great. And also, there's an open invitation for people to reach out to us with use cases. To reach out to us if they have specific problems and they need help with automation. And one more question: where is the best place for people to reach out to you? Where they can find you?
I would say that on LinkedIn it's the quickest place
Hmm.
to reach out. Of course, we are also starting to activate on other social media like Instagram. I'm thinking also for starting a TikTok channel for Procesio. So just look for us on social media. Look for me, look for Mihai, look for Procesio, and you will find
Great.
us.
Thank you so much, and see you soon on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's do
Bye.
this.